should rebuild their currency going forward. So what does El Salvador have? Well, El Salvador accepts Bitcoin as their currency. So obviously this is going to happen with Venezuela as well. So again, for various reasons, Bitcoin is a huge trade based on Venezuela, which is an odd thing. You wouldn't necessarily expect it. The first thing people think about is oil. This is not just about oil. By the way, the media is saying, oh, this is about oil. Shame on Trump. This was a sovereign country. Again, Maduro was not freely elected in a democratic election. Everyone knows this. Anyone who observed the last elections know this. This is why Maria Corina Machado won the Nobel Peace Prize. She was the opponent, and she won the Peace Prize because she's been advocating for a democratic and free Venezuela that frees the political prisoners, that stops killing people. Most of the people I know who are Venezuelan, most people you know who are Venezuelan, every Venezuelan family, you'll have at least one person who's died in that family because of the regime, or is a political prisoner, or who has been kidnapped, or has had multiple family members kidnapped, and so on. So this is a good thing for Venezuela. Forget about politics. Forget about Trump. No one gives a shit what you think. Like, this is a good thing for Venezuela. No Venezuelan's going to argue on that. So,
James, can I ask a quick question about Bitcoin? Because I know you have a lot of things to get to. Is there a chance, like with everything that's going on with the economy there, and I've seen some of the reports saying that people are really excited about this change and so forth, regardless of the politics of it, as you point out. Um, is there a chance that Bitcoin just people start buying that more to use as currency, even though it's not really perfect for a currency in a country like Venezuela? Is there a chance that there's more demand on the retail side outside of
absolutely.
the sovereign wealth fund? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll answer some of the questions that I keep seeing here as well. But
Okay.
absolutely, because I think Venezuela is going to start using Bitcoin as a currency. So then they will buy it as a currency. But Venezuelans will. But in general, I don't care that much. Like, Bitcoin really is better as a store of value. And stable coins are better as currencies. Like forget about crypto, forget about the word cryptocurrency. Crypto is made up of things like Bitcoin, which is a store of value, kind of like how gold is not a currency but a store of value. So Bitcoin is a store of value. It's how you keep savings, and how the U.S. keeps different assets pegged to the dollar. And then you have things like Ethereum, which are like programming language, which you could build decentralized projects on top of. And some of those tokens that are like Ethereum are useful. Some of them are useless. So people are asking about XRP. Nobody uses XRP. XRP has what is it, $120 billion market cap with essentially no users and very few deals. So Bitcoin has won that game, but it's a store of value, and stable coins, $50 trillion worth of stablecoin transactions this year versus 15 trillion Visa transactions. So the stablecoin industry has won the currency game. And then there are things like Ethereum and which is used to build decentralized projects and is very successful at it. There's things like Tau, which is decentralized AI and is very successful. Look, since 3 weeks ago, Tau has gone from a low of 207 to wherever it is now, like 265, 263. And it's gone up 30%, where Bitcoin's gone up 5%. So you're going to have plays like Ethereum and Tau that are going to go up much faster than Bitcoin. But I'm re-recommending Bitcoin for the first time in 4 or 5 years, just because of the safety that's built in to this Venezuelan action that's happened. Like Bitcoin has hit most likely a bottom from this recent low. It's up from 84,000 to 93,000 right now. So it's just going to continue. The high is 126,000. It's going to go there, and that I don't think is in question. It's going to go there with volatility like it always does, but it's a fairly safe invest. No investment's truly safe, but I would consider Bitcoin oddly one of the safer investments right now. But now look, let's talk about yeah, Richard says XRP equals Dogecoin. He's right. XRP is not everybody is asking about XRP. I've given over the years lots of reasons why I don't recommend it, but just now, let's just put it to rest. It's got no users. It's useless. I'm not interested in it. And there's many other coins that are better. So uh, let's talk about oil for a second. So again, a lot of people didn't know, and I don't know why people don't know this. Venezuela has more oil than every other country on the planet, more than Saudi
Are you
Arabia,
guys
more than Iran, more than the US, more than everybody. So just in the past week or so, Russia and China have been in
breaking
Venezuela
news? Ripple
negotiating
has
with
announced
Venezuela
they
for
have a
their oil. Like Venezuela was like is like the biggest country in the world for oil. But here's what happened. When Chavez took over, Venezuela was pumping like 3.5 million, 4 million barrels of oil a day. Now it's pumping like seven or 800,000 barrels of oil a day. It's gone way down in production. They've just let their production go to waste because guess what? Maduro's and Chavez, they stole trillions of dollars for themselves. They didn't care. What's the difference between 10 trillion and 5 trillion for them? That's how much money they have like in their Swiss bank accounts. So, which by the way, US is going to get that as well. So if Maduro wants to live or negotiate a deal or whatever. But what has to happen for the U.S. Maria Machado, she has come out and said that, hey, U.S., come and get it. We'll give you trillions of dollars worth of oil immediately. It's yours if you just come in and free Venezuela. Eventually she's going to be the president of Venezuela, but they need to get to free elections first, and that's important. They need to have go through a democratic process. This can't be like Afghanistan or Iraq, where we sort of messed up on governing these places. That's why there's some continuity between Maduro and Rodriguez, the new acting president or whatever you want to call her. So they're going to have free elections. Maria Cachino Mercado is going to, who again won the Nobel Peace Prize, dedicated it to Trump. She's probably going to be the new president. She's already said how important Bitcoin is to Venezuela and how the U.S. should just come in and get the oil. Now, how does the U.S. come and get the oil? Well, we already have the oil. Chevron is still the company. Chevron was the company before Chavez, was the company during Chavez, and it's still the company pumping up a lot of the oil in Venezuela because Venezuela just didn't have the technological resources. That said, they weren't paying Chevron a lot. They defaulted on their debt to Chevron. So Chevron wasn't going to put in more money or more resources to pump out more oil. They didn't care. They just wanted to be there. So now, who benefits? Now, of course, Chevron's up today, but it's only up from 155 to 163. It's not, or 164. I don't know where it is this second. So yes, it made a move, and so anybody who traded it actually anybody who traded it in the pre-market this morning lost money. But long term, if Venezuela has to 10x their output to get back to normal, then Chevron's going to benefit, Schlumberger SLB is going to benefit, ConocoPhillips is going to benefit, Valero, which specializes in dirty crude, which is what the kind of oil Venezuela has, they're going to benefit. So some of these tickers we recommended, some of them we haven't yet. We might in the future, or we might recommend options plays on them in our options group. But I definitely pay a lot of attention to Chevron. I'd be a buyer at this level, but maybe wait and see where it ends the day or where it ends tomorrow. Ideally, dollar cost average into it. Maybe there's going to be an opportunity to buy it below 160. But Chevron is a huge winner here. Huge. By the way, there's billions of dollars in debt that Venezuela owes Chevron that they never paid. That money is going to Chevron. So they're going to win from that. So Chevron, Schlumberger. Now ask yourself, Venezuela has 100,000 roads that are in disrepair. Roads that they just haven't fixed roads for 30 years. So who builds infrastructure when countries are taken over? When Afghanistan was taken over, who built the new infrastructure? KBR and FLR. So these two companies, again, I don't know if they were on the tickers we recommended this morning, or perhaps we'll recommend them in the future and you're getting some advanced insight, or maybe we'll wait and we'll recommend options plays on them in our options group, True Alpha. But KBR and Fluor, which made tens of billions of dollars rebuilding countries like Afghanistan and Iraq, they're of course going to be rebuilding Venezuela, no question. I mean, nothing's been announced, of course, but it's no question. Now, very important also. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just for a second, James. I'm going to give you a second to take a breath. I mean, people are in here saying, "Have a drink of water, James."
I will actually.
James, you're on fire. You've been on fire all weekend getting ready for this call. So I just want to make a mention. Everyone on this call that is a subscriber to Altitude's Investment Network got an email this morning at 9:25. Okay, so 9:25. Check your email right around that time, and make sure that you got the email with the recommendations that James sees benefiting from this move in Venezuela. If you do not find that email, the next thing you should do is go to the website. Go to myparadigmpress.com. Go in there, log into Altucher's Investment Network, and you'll see the most recent alert. That alert will have all the information you need in there. So we post it in a couple different places. Or if you have the app and you prefer to do it on your phone here, we have our app, and the plays will be in there as well. So, James, I just wanted to mention that because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, I didn't see the email." Those are the three ways that you get it. If you don't see it in the email, hit the website. All right. So you were talking oil, Schlumberger, Chevron.
Yeah, and maybe we'll, again, not all of these stocks are official recommendations. We did do some recommendations this morning. Other ones maybe we're looking at more carefully, or maybe they belong in better as an options play.
Yep.
But I hope someone's keeping track of all the tickers we mentioned, because these are all the ones that I've been keeping track of. Now, some of these are really big, like Chevron. You wouldn't expect to go up very much, but again, if Venezuela, the biggest oil country in the world, is going to 10x their production, and they're going to use Chevron and Schlumberger to do it, that's going to have a significant impact on these relatively safe, nicely dividend-paying stocks. It's one of the only times I'll ever recommend an oil company, because they're usually not very volatile, and who knows, how the price of oil is going to go and so on. But this is a case where Chevron's got an enormous client that's going to come through for them. So it's very important to know. And look, I do want to talk about some smaller plays as well, but we're going to get to them. So Venezuela is, of course, like many other countries that are rich in oil, Venezuela is also rich in other natural resources, in particular, rare earth minerals. Now, the entire reason, October, there was a mini crash. There was even a flash crash in crypto. In April, there was a crash, not a crash, but there was a turn down in the markets and a big turn down in crypto. The entire reason was because Trump and China are having this trade war. Well, the biggest issue in the trade war is rare earth minerals. So, rare earth minerals, if you don't know, they're the minerals that are critical for powering all of our electricity, all of our electric grids. Uh, uh, we can't exist as a society without rare earth minerals, and they're rare. Now, they're not necessarily rare inside the planet, but they're rare in terms of production. And China is the biggest producer. So Trump, correctly, this has been a big issue for Trump since before his first term. Uh, and by the way, this is a big issue for every president, but Trump probably took it more seriously than everyone else did. So Obama and Biden's strategy, correctly or incorrectly, I'm not criticizing. Invested in companies like MP, which is one of the biggest companies in terms of extracting rare earth minerals from the ground. So now, Venezuela obviously does not have the infrastructure in place to extract quickly enough to help us avoid China. They don't have the infrastructure in place to extract rare earth minerals, but they have the rare earth minerals under the ground.
Yeah.
So MP is the winner. They're going to, again, US government owns part of the company. US government's going to benefit, and Venezuelans will benefit. By the way, this is all, everything I'm talking about right now is all good for Venezuelans. Venezuelans are going to get paid back for the 26 years of misery and suffering that they've gone through. Believe me, I know people who have been kidnapped in Venezuela. That has been the worst country. Maduro was like Stalin, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. The guy was a maniac. So maybe he was more like Gaddafi. I don't know, like just someone just stealing from the ground. But so MP is going to benefit in terms of the rare earths. There are other companies that will as well. USAR certainly will benefit. There's more nitrogen related companies, but we'll get to those. And I want to quickly get to some of the other sectors, but oil, crypto, rare earths, these are three sectors we've touched on.
Yeah, and James, the rare earth story, China plays a pivotal role in turning on and turning off the faucet of rare earths. I think they're responsible for like 90% of rare earth, either production or assets underground. I can't remember which, but it's a big chunk of global capacity. And they could just say, and they have, we're not going to export these. We're going to retain them and keep them for our allies versus putting them on the global market. So,
Yeah, and by the way, the Chinese delegation is still in Venezuela. Like they
yeah,
can't get out because they were negotiating rare earths with Venezuela right when we invaded. So, duh.
yeah,
This is a big world. This is again, I mentioned this, Doug, like 2 months ago. Why wasn't the New York Times? Why isn't anywhere in any front page, CNN.com, NewYorkTimes.com? Why wasn't anyone mentioning that we had 15,000 battleships off the coast of Venezuela and 100,000 troops gathering there? No one was talking about this as if, oh,
yeah.
this is just Trump, blah, blah, blah. Like, forget your politics. This is the most, we're only on January, what, 5th today? And this is by far the most important geopolitical event that is happening in 2026. It's the
Yeah,
entire world is changing and people don't realize it. And so,
yeah, yeah. I just gonna say, James, I can't imagine anything overtaking this in 2026. It is the tariff story on steroids for 20, that was 2025. I just want to point out one thing.
maybe Iran, but that's it.
Yeah, yeah, Iran. Yeah. Um, People are saying they didn't get the email, so that could be overactive email filters. But here is where you find it on the website under the update section, pre-market alert, Trump's checkmate. This is the email that James sent. I'm just going to run through this because everyone here should have access to this. Here are the recommendations. We've got Bitcoin, we have SLB, Chevron. I'm going to leave this page up so people can see it. But this is the email that went out this morning, and
Yeah.
we want to make sure that everyone has access to this.
And and
Um,
and
yeah,
by the way, Jeremy says, "Oh, MP is not on there." As I mentioned, there's going to be some tickers I mentioned that are not on this list. So all weekend we were putting together this list, but some things are appropriate for Altucher's Investment Network. MP is a stock we typically do options plays on in our
yeah,
True Alpha service. So perhaps we're going to recommend this later or recommend it in some other fashion. This is all happening in real time. So. Douchebag, great name, mentions that Venezuela is less, Bitcoin is less than 60 billion. The oil is worth north of 25 trillion. That's correct. I mean, 25 trillion is not easily accessible to oil, whereas the 60 billion is available today. And maybe it's
yeah,
more like 10 trillion. But that said, it's very important, by the way. We haven't even begun to talk about the effect. I'm just talking about the effect on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is 93,000 right now. It's going to go to all-time highs, 126,000. So as an investment, I don't care the size of 60 billion versus 25 trillion. I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen. But
yeah,
in terms of the 25 trillion, we're talking about stocks like Chevron, Schlumberger, Valero, ConocoPhillips, every oil company essentially, and all the infrastructure plays. So I appreciate the 25 trillion. And also, let's not forget, there's huge consequences 2, 3 years out to what it means for an extra 10. The US is a $30 trillion GDP. Imagine if over the next 2 or 3 years, or 5 years even, there's an extra 10 trillion dropping onto the US's GDP. That's a big enough number. GDP is going to start to be 10, 15% a year. That's when you start getting rid of the IRS and things like that. Like, this is going to be a huge benefit to the United States. It's underestimated right now because people don't want to give the government credit. I'm not political. I just care about making money, and whatever. So there's lots of ancillary benefits to what's happening. So for instance, Venezuela, you know, just got beaten down. Now, what happens next with Greenland, which is another huge resource for rare earths? What happens next with Iran? What happens next with Cuba? There's going to be far-reaching effects of this. We're just talking about specific stocks right now. We could have other calls about other stuff. I mean, this is all an area I've been dealing with for quite some time, ever since it's a sector of the world I've been very focused on for a long time for personal reasons. And B, it's just a very important sector that all hedge fund managers have been focused on for a long time. Uh, just as a side thing, I was an advisor to season 3 of Billions, and episode 1 of season 3 which I helped write the episode, as you remember, focused on Brazil and South America as having a tsunami, which is impossible in Brazil. But anyway, a lot of these issues had to come up as well. I'm not saying this is my experience on Venezuela, but this is just an area of focus for the whole world and
Yeah.
as exemplified in the media. Um,
Yeah, that was a great series, and your take on Bitcoin and crypto and transferring money between billionaires in that series, I could tell it was you. So,
yeah,
all right, James, let's talk about like one of the things that we're hearing. If you sit down and read something from the mainstream media right now, there's a lot of talk about infrastructure plays, the state of infrastructure, which I know you have some insight on inside of Venezuela, and the impact for investments as a result of that infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I don't just mean roads and bridges, but uh, internet access. That's a big one because your super IPO thesis that you talked about over the last, 6 or 8 months or so, the in the play ASTS. I want to get your take on what this means for infrastructure plays outside of again roads and bridges and that sort of thing.
sure, sure. And also before we end, I want to talk about military and defense stocks because
Okay.
just let me just add for a second to tease that. But suddenly we have the new Donald Trump doctrine to follow up on the Monroe Doctrine and Theodore Roosevelt's doctrine regarding how we're going to protect South America. But now suddenly the waters outside of Venezuela are going to be the largest U.S. Navy base in the world, is my prediction. And what stocks are going to benefit from that and what companies. But we'll get to that in a second. Look, let's also take a little step back from space and Starlink and just build the bigger picture. So you know what Moore's Law is. Moore's Law was made by Gordon Moore, was the CEO of Intel in 1967, and he basically said every 18 months computer chips are going to double in speed. He actually said memory capacity will double, but let's just say he said computer chips will double in speed every 18 months. And by the way, more since 1967, which is almost 60 years ago, he's been correct. Every 18 months on the dot, computer chips have been twice as fast, twice as small, twice as much memory, whatever. So that exponential effect, when you double every 18 months, that creates tens of trillions of dollars in value. So what happened? We have several multi-trillion dollar computer companies. We have an internet that's worth an aggregate tens of trillions of dollars. By the way, the whole computer industry back in 1967 was maybe $1 billion. I think Intel had a $25 million market cap then. So I don't even think it was $1 billion in the whole market cap of computers. But more so back in 2008, I wrote a book called The Forever Portfolio about this. So look for exponentially growing industries and just buy the stocks in those industries because they're going to be exponentially growing. And I don't know if we have the portfolio around anywhere, but that portfolio that I recommended has done extremely well and has well outperformed the market. Unfortunately, the publisher published the book in December 2008, the worst month in US market history, pretty much. And I begged them not to publish the book then. And they said, "Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, it's too late. It's going out." It's my worst selling book. That book has more negative reviews on it than it has buyers. I don't even know how many people were able to review it. And the reason it has negative reviews is because when that book came out, nobody was buying stocks. Everyone's like, why capitalism's dead? Why is he telling us to buy stocks? So, but there are, at any given point, there are industries that are exponentially growing more than ever now because now you have AI pushing on every industry to make innovation faster. So this just sets the stage. So what's happening with space? Well, first off, we found science has determined that space is more useful than ever. Obviously, it's important for things like communication satellites, getting the internet from space with like Starlink. It's important for defense. It's important for surveillance, but it's also important for things like welding. It's important for an enormous number of activities and more important every single day. So, but the other thing that's happening is satellites are getting smaller every year. So the ability to launch a small satellite is easier than the ability to launch a big satellite. So satellites are turning into nano satellites. So like one, SpaceX rocket, and I've watched several rocket launches from Cape Kennedy, they could launch 40 nanosatellites into space. So what I'm saying is there's a Moore's law of satellites going into space. Roughly every 18 months, there's double the number of satellites launching into space. It's getting to be so much that there's going to soon be an industry of space junk, cleaning up the non-useful satellites in space that are just floating around now. So ASTS is critical for making new satellites, making new methods for satellites to go up into space. But here's the thing, and this is not necessarily an obvious connection unless you know, but like the CEO of ASTS, guess what? He's from Venezuela. One of the board members is a member of the Cisneros family, very influential in Venezuela. And ASTS has a lot of connections with Venezuela, the Venezuela industries, the wealthiest Venezuelan families, and we don't know how this will play out as Venezuela is rebuilt, but certainly ASTS, which has been a recommendation of ours, is going to be a prominent player as Venezuela builds out its space industry. So I kind of think ASTS is going to eventually get acquired by a Starlink IPO at some point. You know, Starlink's IPO is going to immediately make it worth over $1 trillion. And I forget what the market cap of ASTS is, but it's certainly smaller than that. And it would be an excellent acquisition. So we'll see how that plays out, but it will only be a positive on top of the positives we already recommend. So
Yeah.
that's my ASTS connection. Again,
That's amazing, James. I did not know until today that the founder of ASTS is Venezuelan.
yeah, no, yeah,
I did not know that.
the board, like, I forget her name, her first name, but Cisneros, her last name was on the board. Cisneros is one of the biggest influential, wealthy billionaire families in Venezuela, and is going to have a lot to say in the rebuilding of
Oh, yeah.
Venezuela.
Yeah. Well, we've been holding ASTS since when, James? I don't have the portfolio up in front of me. Maybe someone could post that when we first bought ASTS, but it's up, I think, don't quote me on this, 400% or so. Or no, that's a 10 bagger. I think ASTS was a 10 bagger for us. Anyway, the important thing is that it's just getting started. That one, you made a really good case for how ASTS has a lot of room to run, even though it's had a nice run already. So, all right.
Yeah. Look, I'm very excited about the space industry in general. So, but there's a lot of shitty space companies, and if you could find the ones that are good, it's the same point I made in 2008 in the Forever portfolio. Find the industries that are growing exponentially, buy as many good ones as you can, and you're going to make tens of millions of dollars. Like anyone who bought Intel and a bunch of computer companies in the 60s and 70s, they're sitting on retirement of tens of millions of dollars now, even if you spend just a few $1,000s. So it's the same thing's going to happen with space. ASTS is our favorite or one of our favorites. And by the way, it just so happens there's this strong Venezuelan connection that zero newspapers are talking about it, but that's to be expected.
Yeah.
And then I do want to mention in crypto, yes, recommending Bitcoin, but I personally would recommend crypto tokens that are correlated to Bitcoin that have higher beta. So for instance, like I said earlier, Bitcoin's gone up 5% in the same amount of time. Tau in the past 3 weeks has gone up 30%, almost 30%. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tau, I just am making a reminder, huge crypto trade because of this Venezuelan stuff, on top of all the other things that are bullish about crypto. So that is normally the topic of this call on Mondays. Yeah.
Can I just throw in a curveball? We've got 10 minutes left that we can run a little over if you want, James, because I know we got a lot of people asking questions. I mean, this Zoom, by the way, is maxed out. We had
Let me just take 1 minute on military.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right,
We
go
can go
ahead.
wherever you want to go. I was just going to ask if we can run a little long because this situation is so unique and the opportunities are widespread. I just want to make sure you had enough time and didn't feel rushed. So if you want to talk military, let's talk military. Let's talk drones.
Yeah. And look, there's all the obvious, like, okay, buy Lockheed Martin. And I mean, I got some email from some trading service, buy Lockheed Martin and Raytheon. Of course, buy the biggest military companies on the planet. That's an easy whatever. But let's look at the ones that could potentially go out more. So AeroVironment, AVAV makes so what's going to happen is these military bases, it's not like we're going to fight a war you know, in the water outside of Venezuela. It's not like Russia's going to invade us and we have to fight a war there, but we do need drones for surveillance and they're going to launch out of ships that are being put there. So AVAV, one of the biggest drone makers, that's going to benefit. Um, by the way, we need more ships. HII makes the ships. They're going to benefit. And again, I don't think that stock was mentioned in the letter this morning, but I'm just throwing these out there and they could, at some point later, maybe we'll recommend them or maybe we'll recommend them in one of our other services like Paradigm Mastermind Group or True Alpha. I don't know myself, you know, Zach Scheit, who runs True Alpha with me, we've been discussing what are good options plays because a lot of these companies, like take Chevron as an example, they suddenly have a spike in volatility that affects how you play the options trades. And it's very important to look at those subtleties and those nuances when you're picking a good options trade. So,
Look at that thing. Look at that, James.
yeah. So
He's
what's the price right now?
164.
Yeah. So, okay. If you want, I recommended just to friends of mine earlier today, hey, maybe dollar cost average into it. Last night it was trading for 175. I told people don't buy it there. It's a little too high. It just as a spike. It's going to get back to there because it's only going to go up from here given what's happening. Now, here's the advantage we all have is that the media is stupid. And the media is going to say, oh, this is not a done deal yet. Like, Rodriguez is a strong leader. Russia and China are upset. There are protesters in New York City and Portland saying free Madero, which is insane. And anybody who's on the chat who's from Venezuela, chip in. Those people are insane, right? Just chip in and say like whatever you think. If you think I'm insane, say it. Or if you think people who are shouting for free Madero insane, just say it in the chat and everyone can see. Crazy to free Madero. So yeah, so look, who else will benefit? So LHX, which is the former Level 3, they make the sensors that allow drones to communicate back to ships. LDOS, Leidos, they make automated ships and kind of add the AI robotics aspect to shipbuilding. So all of these companies, and some of them are smaller than others, all these companies are going to benefit along with the classic military industrial complex. Also, let's not forget Palantir.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
don't forget that Palantir is involved in every major military action. How do you think we knew exactly what room Maduro was sitting in when we got him? And we knew exactly, where he was running to when he was running and so on. And it's all through Palantir. So I don't know if Palantir goes up immediately, but Palantir is a long-term play that we've been on and off recommending, and it's certainly a good play right now here. It's not, I wouldn't necessarily say go out and rush to buy Palantir right now, but it's definitely something to keep on the radar, literally and metaphorically. So,
Yeah. They're
um,
keeping the radar on you, so might as well turn the tables and keep the radar on Palantir.
well, this was like 12 years ago. I met with Joe Lonsdale, who was the CEO of Palantir at the time. He's also a chess player, about equal strength in chess. And Joe said to me he was trying to diversify a little bit and he wanted to sell some of his Palantir shares. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll buy it. What's the valuation? And he said 5 billion. And I was like, no way, man. I'm not. How's it going to be worth 5 billion? Forget it. And I didn't buy his shares, which of course, what is it worth now? Like I don't know, 100 billion. I don't even know.
Yeah.
So, um,
James, can I do a couple more housekeeping
sure.
notes? I just want to make a note that first off, people who are looking for the app, there's a big demand for it right now, and I just want to make sure people know how to get there. We're going to post a link in the chat where you can either, if you have an iPhone or if you have an Android phone, they'll take you right to the Paradigm Press app. You can download it. You log in just like you would log in onto our website, and you get access to everything. Ooh, look at that. And you have access to everything on your phone. In addition, you get content there we don't publish anywhere else. It is a unique feature, and it's a news feed that we put up there, and all of our guys, James and Enrique and Jim Rickards, all of our traders, they can post into the news feed, and you get that up to the minute. And there's no limit on what they can post, so they might post 6 or 10 or 15 things a day in that news feed, that hard hitting, up to the market action. So that's thing number one. Thing number two, any call like this where James is talking to paid readers about recommendations and his insights for the market, we always record those and we always post them to our website. So if you came late, don't worry, we got you covered. We will post this on the site tomorrow. If you have to leave early because you have to work, then we will have it there for you up on the site tomorrow as well. So don't worry about that. We just want to make sure that we get this information to you without delay. So, okay, James, anything?
I want to talk about one other sector, which is very, very important for Venezuela, which I almost forgot about, which is the financial sector. So Venezuelan has done nothing but default on all of its debts for 26 years. So
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of like this is just pure financial stuff. There's going to be a lot of debt restructuring. There's going to be a lot of M&A. There's going to be a lot of financial transactions, IPOs in America. There's going to be, we can't even imagine the size of the financial industry going back and forth between Venezuela and the US. So I haven't really done the deep dive yet. Again, what's the obvious answers? JP Morgan and Citigroup are going to benefit a lot from Venezuela. But let's look at smaller ones. Houlihan Lokey, HLI is the ticker. They, in 2017, they were involved in helping to restructure about 60 or 70 billion dollars worth of Venezuelan debt that they owed to some companies. So, and since then, Houlihan Lokey has drastically increased its department of foreign debt restructuring. So this is an important play. Look, it's gapping up now, but it's far below even its November highs. So it's gapping up because of this reason, and maybe because I don't know. I don't think we've talked about it today, so other people know about this. But I haven't seen Houlihan. I haven't seen this mentioned in the news at all. This company, and there's another one. And Doug, I haven't looked at it. I'd be curious about the chart.
Yeah.
BBVA is a bank in Argentina that I've used that has offices in Venezuela. So again, I just throw this out as a potential thing to look at. It's not a recommendation. The chart looks great, but it could be a recommendation in the future. And I don't, because I was so focused on crypto as the financial play for Venezuela here. And by the way, it's one thing if, oh, James loves crypto, so any event that happens in the world, he's going to connect it to crypto. Venezuela happened to be the fourth largest holder of crypto on the planet. So it's really important for crypto. So I want that to be the story, the financial story for Venezuela. But Houlihan Lokey, BBVA, and of course, JP Morgan, Citigroup, those are the boring plays. But when you look at just all the boring plays, JP Morgan, Citigroup, Starlink, Palantir, Google, Exxon, Chevron, that's the Dow Jones Index. Okay, that's the top of the S&P 500. So the US markets in general have got about $10 trillion or maybe more, as douchebag, so-called in the Zoom chat, as douchebag said, $25 trillion worth of natural resources there. There's huge benefit that's happening to the US. And I'm even thinking down the road, this is going to affect our tax rates. This is going to certainly, if you're Venezuelan, congratulations, you're going to get paid out of the natural resources that are coming, particularly if you lost property or businesses in the past, like there's going to be restitution. So all the people underestimate because good things so rarely happen on such a global scale like this. People are underestimating how good this is. And then of course you have the media is, scare people first, ask questions later. The media is not being as honest as they could be about what's happening. And just like before this, they could have announced before this that, hey, an attack is imminent. The prediction markets knew that the attack is imminent. By the way, go to the prediction markets for anybody who's betting on Polymarket. For instance, it has Maria Makata. There's a bet. When will Maria Makata be in Venezuela next because she left at Venezuela to accept the Nobel Peace Prize, but she has to go back at some
Mm.
point if she wants to be president. And I don't see where the bet is. Earlier today, it was trading for around 33 cents by January 31st. Oh yeah, Maria Corina Machado enters Venezuela by January 31st. It's only 24 cents to win a dollar. I'm not recommending this. We're not recommending any, you know, prediction market trade. I myself personally would take that bet at 24 cents because I personally think she's already there. Or safer, it's 48 cents by March 31st. 48 cents to win a dollar, 24 cents to win a dollar if you bet by January 31st. Um, I would actually,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say that's interesting. And like, yeah, like you said, we don't put prediction markets in our portfolios and stuff, but that is an interesting insight into what people think is going to happen geopolitically speaking, in the resulting days and weeks, because of this huge transaction that's happened.
And,
I
and
did,
usually the prediction markets are fairly accurate, but
yeah.
like I'm surprised by January 31st is so low, 24 cents. The only reason I think that's a good bet is I think she's already in Venezuela, and she's just in hiding, which is where
Oh,
before she accepted the Nobel Peace Prize. So
it
uh,
sounds like you know something, James.
I don't necessarily know anything. And of course, she's being very private
Yeah,
because she could be in jeopardy.
yeah,
So her security is very safe, but she hasn't appeared anywhere else and she's been making announcements. So, uh, my bet is she's in Venezuela. And most Venezuelans I've spoken to think she's in Venezuela. So we'll see. Uh,
yeah.
uh, Yes. So Sue mentions Delcy Rodriguez, sworn in as Venezuelan president. She's been a long ally of Maduro. She's not a good person, but she has agreed, and she's in public. She is talking down about Trump, but she has to do that. She has to keep control of the armed forces, or else there's just chaos. And but do not think for a second that Trump simply took Maduro and forgot about everyone else. Like the war is over and the US is in charge, but because she's internationally recognized now as the president of Venezuela, even though it was a completely unfair election, nobody thinks it's a fair election, but it was acknowledged as an election. She's the official president. She's got to turn it over to free democratic elections, of which probably Maria Kachina is gonna win. Who knows? But that would be my bet. And again, all of this is so. Somebody asked, John asked, Leidos. I did mention LDOS and other military firms. So,
Yeah,
this is a very good
that's
question.
in the alert.
This is a
Yeah,
very
that's
good question. Reen asked, any idea why Trump slammed Mikado in his press release? And the media is saying, oh, he slammed Maria Mercado because she didn't refuse the Peace Prize and it completely announced that Trump deserved it. Well, she did donate the prize to Trump. She was very clear about that. The only reason Trump downplayed her is because he is paying respect to the democratic process. If he had just put her in as president, then she would be no better than Maduro. So he's being very smart and savvy about this. She needs to freely win a democratic election. Delcy Rodriguez is the president of Venezuela now, on this stuff. It's a very sophisticated strategy and it's going to play out. We'll see. There's a funny meme of Marco Rubio sitting around looking bored where someone asked, like, how does it feel to be the president of Venezuela, the governor of Cuba, and the Shah of Iran all at once? And and that's Marco Rubio, or about to be Marco Rubio. So,
wow.
and
What a world we live in, James. What a world.
yeah, and look, I think did I cover the major sectors I wanted to cover? There's a lot more stuff. Obviously, we're talking about 25
Well,
trillion dollars in a big country. By the way,
yeah.
here's the other thing I would do. What I have been doing is looking for real estate in Caracas. Caracas is one of the most beautiful cities you could ever go to. It's impossible for US citizens to go there at the moment, but of course, within 2 months, 3 months, whatever, it's going to be possible. Real estate's dirt cheap, but it was not going to be dirt cheap forever. So yeah, Doug, you got to get Ronan and Rita on this. I'm in. I'm calling all my Venezuelan friends. I'm gonna buy real estate in Venezuela.
He did send me a message over the weekend, said, "Hey, I want to send you to Argentina." for looking at some property, and I said, well, can we wait a couple weeks anyway, see how this all plays out?
Look, I've been to
But
Argentina many times, as you know. My ex
yeah,
was Argentinian and Venezuelan, so I love both countries. And I would, but just in terms of sheer beauty, and also, by the way, it's 2.5 hours away from the U.S.
yeah.
I would absolutely just roll up Venezuela as far as real estate. Argentina is a very far plane ride. It's
That's what I said. Did I say? I said Argentina. Of course, I'm in Venezuela.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Real quick, James, because we're over time here. I want to make a quick mention. I want to give opportunity to everyone in the chat to ask a question. We'll do a lightning round. We'll handle real quick questions if we can. Go ahead and post them in the chat, and I'll get to those. I just wanted to make note to a big change that you made to the portfolios today. And if you go to the website and click the little hamburger thing right here and go to portfolios, you can see the three portfolios. This financial freedom portfolio, that's what I want. I want some of that. That used to be our stocks portfolio, but James, in all of our talks, you really focus on helping people find financial freedom, whatever that means for each
Yeah.
individual person. So we decided to go ahead and recharacterize this portfolio. And if you go in and you can look and see some of the recommendations that are in here in this portfolio. I don't know if you and what you want to add to that, James.
I just want to mention the reason for the name is that I get all these ads like there's a trader standing in front of his private jet with all sorts of models like, hey, I was up 7 billion% just trading charts last year, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, I get it. Some people love material luxuries, and of course, riding in a private jet is great. It's very convenient. It's a much better way to fly, but the reason I've had a dual career of managing money for the past 25 years, but also I've been writing. I used to have hedge fund managers ask me, like, why are you writing about all this stuff? Just focus on the hedge fund managing. And I'm like, no, no, no. I love the writing because how else, how like you can't if you're the only one who benefits from your life, then you didn't really have much of a life. And I'm a big believer that the the reason people should be interested in investing and curious about investing and be disciplined about it is because not so that they can have the private jet or the big house or whatever. That's fine. Freedom. They want to be able to make their own decisions in their lives. They need to be able to choose themselves, as is the title of a book I wrote, and not only for themselves but for generations afterwards of their families. And so this is really important to me, and I wanted to express that by renaming that portfolio.
Yeah, we figured it was the beginning of the year, and it seemed like a good theme for what we're trying to accomplish here for all of our readers here at Paradigm Press, but yours specifically, James, because I mean, again, you talk about financial freedom and what it means to you. We got a lot of questions coming in about silver and gold, not surprisingly, but I want to kind of reframe those. James, this is a lightning round, which I know you're historically terrible at. However, if we could get a quick answer, what do you think? Silver and gold. What does this move in Venezuela mean for silver and gold miners in Venezuela?
Okay, the miners in Venezuela, huge win for them because they all had their mines seized. Their mines were nationalized. My lawyer in 2008, I was with him, I was even considering investing in the deal. His mine was nationalized. He even co-owned it with the government of Russia. So, gold mining companies, and I don't know if we mentioned a ticker. There was a ticker we spoke about this morning, but gold mining companies are going to finally get their mines back or get restitution. Now, the price of gold and silver itself, I don't know because there's going to be another bet. Here's the problem with gold and silver versus Bitcoin. I know how many Bitcoins there are going to be in the history of the planet. There's going to be 21 million Bitcoins. But gold, you just don't know how much gold and silver is under the ground. And now that Venezuela is opening up, a lot of silver and gold might come up above the ground over the next 10 years. Silver and gold both have had a good run. I think they're probably still running because there's some instability with this, but I think they settled. I think gold itself and silver as a commodity, not so good. But the gold miners in Venezuela, huge financial plays now because there's going to be some restitution.
That might be the best performance you've ever had in a lightning round, James. And that was probably about 2 minutes. That's pretty good.
I'll try to do yes and no.
No, no. It was great. It was great. I'm just kidding around. Um, all right. We've got some questions about buy up to prices. We're not going to cover that on these calls, just because you can see all that in the portfolio. If you're interested in any of the stocks that James talked about today, just go to the website, click on the portfolio, see the buy up to price, and compare it to what it's trading at. If it's under the buy up to price, then it's a recommended buy. So go ahead and take a look. I don't want to spend time. We could go through 30 or 40 tickers and take up all the time left on the call. So I'm going to leave that to everyone to do that on their own. James, I just want to ask, what aspect of this are you what aspect of the investment plays are you most excited about as we head into 2026?
Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah.
And in
Okay.
particular, Tau is my favorite crypto token, and for a lot of reasons that I've explained a million times over, but also anything relating to stable coins like Chainlink, Aave, even Ethereum. And by the way, they're all down. They're all really at good prices. So I advise, as some of you know, I advise some companies on basically about almost $50 million worth of crypto transactions. And I'm a buyer. I don't know if today, but maybe today of Chainlink, Aave, Tau, and those are the ones I can publicly name. But I'm a buyer of these things at these prices.
Yeah. My portfolio is not full of those, but it has those in it. So I'm right there with you on that, James. And again, folks, we get these questions far more often than I would like. Is people not being able to find the portfolio? And if you look up here, paradigmpress.com, you go there, you log in, and you just click right here, and it says portfolio. Their subscriptions that you subscribe to will all be listed right here under James Altucher or whatever editor that you subscribe to. You click on Investment Network, you come here, you click on portfolio. There it is. You got three open and closed portfolios. These are the recommended buys. These are things that we've sold. So that's it for that. And again, you know, I'm just going to make one last recommendation, James, and I'm going to turn it over to you for any final words. But if you don't get our app, it is free. You guys are subscribers. You already paid. You already showed us that you trust James and his recommendations. So we built this app to make it easier for you. Far too often, people miss emails and they miss out on opportunities as a result. The app takes that away as a possibility because you have it right here on your phone. So go ahead. We'll go ahead and yes, Matt calls it. Matt Inslee says the super app. You got to download it. We're going to go ahead and post those links again, and you can go ahead and download that. You can get access to the news feed as well as all the trade recommendations and portfolio recommendations as well as articles. It's a fantastic resource, super easy to use, and it's not glitchy at all. So you definitely want to download that. So we can post that link again. James, final words. What
Yeah.
do you have for us?
First off, well, I just want to mention someone asked about quantum computers. There's not
Yeah.
really any connection right now between quantum computing and what's happening in Venezuela. One thing I just want to add about quantum computers, and by the way, I do advise another public company on quantum computing. So I don't want to say I'm an expert like a quantum physicist, but I've been on the calls with quantum physicists talking about this stuff. There's a lot of technologies out there that are trying to replace GPUs. GPUs, Moore's law, which I mentioned earlier, is hitting a wall, and the wall now is GPUs, and GPUs simply can't get smaller and can't get faster. And they will a little bit, but they can't keep following Moore's law. So there's lots of competitors like quantum computing. Maybe that'll be the next generation of computing. There's photonic computing. There's even something called DNA computing. There's gallium nitride as materials instead of silicon as materials to make chips. I'm looking into all of these. I'm exploring these at a professional level, not just as an investor, and I will keep people updated. So that's just as a side. But most importantly, I want to stress, don't listen to the media and don't listen to any politician. It doesn't matter if it's the Democrats or Trump or the media that supports both. They're all pushing their agenda. You really have to go to the source and find out what's going on. And that's what we'll be doing, and keeping you informed on a daily, weekly, monthly basis on all of these stocks that we spoke about today and on new stocks that we continue to discover. I've mentioned maybe one third or one fourth of the stocks that I seriously looked at just the past and talked about with other people over the past 2 or 3 days. And again, I I could go a list again, my who I've spoken to and my background in this, but suffice to say. But number two, I really appreciate, look, this is a Monday afternoon. I know everybody's busy. It's the first business week, the first business day of the year. I'm sure everyone is really busy catching up on what they have to do. It shows me and Doug and Matt and the other members of our team that you guys are serious. We wouldn't do this if you guys were not serious about your own investing. Sure, we're going to give you whatever information we have and whatever help we can. You have to be serious and disciplined about your own investing to succeed. And this shows me that everyone on this call is serious about their investing, serious about their financial freedom, and that encourages me that we're doing the right thing. We'll always have up periods, down periods, but overall, we'll give you all the information we have, all the research we have, and overall, we assume where everybody's going to do very, very well, extremely well, which is, we've been in business for a long time. We wouldn't be in business if we weren't doing well. So thank you guys so much for being here. That means a lot to me and to us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, James. Could not have said that better myself. All right, so that does it for us here today. For everyone at home, I just want to say, I know we have a lot of new people here on this call. I want to say thank you for being a part of Altitude's Investment Network.